Absolutely.
All right, now another motion picture we got.
Oh,
to check
yeah.
out. Little
Very
little
classy.
ditty.
Good transition movie,
Yeah.
I think.
Really on par, I'd say.
Well, it's just
with
one that people need to know. We're
the
talking, of
dynamic
course, about
acting.
Death Race 2050. I got to see it. Did anybody else?
I sure did.
It's actually on Netflix now, too.
It
It's on
sure
Netflix.
is.
Right.
Yeah, we're talking about Death Race 2050, the latest motion picture by Roger Corman. 90-plus-year-old SOB Roger Corman still working.
Mm.
And this is the it's not the direct sequel.
It is an emotional sequel. Because it is neither a direct remake nor a direct sequel.
Of
It's
the
got like
original
the same
1970.
characters, the same themes. You're right. Yeah.
It does. Most of the same characters along the same lines and pretty much updated for the modern age. The original movie was Death Race 2020.
Yeah.
Movie starring David Carradine, rest his soul.
And Sly Stallone, yeah.
And Sly Stallone.
Sly Stallone delivering one of the greatest lines in all of cinema, where he turns to his kind of co-pilot, co-writer / girlfriend, and looks at her and goes, "Yeah, well, you're just a big potato." Because she's sassing him, and he literally just says, "You're just a big potato."
Just derp. Yeah.
And it's just it stuck with me, man.
Yeah,
I watched that movie 20 years ago. And
Immortal lines like that stay with you.
Totally.
That's another movie. Speaking of movies to watch way too young, is my dad loved that
Death
movie and he
Race,
had it
yeah.
on, and I watched Death Race.
Oh man.
But the violence in the original one is like just hella
It's
goofy.
campy. I mean, it was
even the
good.
new one's goofy, but it's a little more graphic. But it's just soup. The original's incredibly goofy.
All those Roger Corman B movies that are made in like 2 weeks or have that.
They spent
quality
at
to
least
them.
3 weeks on this new film. I got to say, it had my boy Manu Bennett in
At
it, so that's really
least, yeah.
exciting to see him in a lead role. It's for those who don't know, he has done a lot of work. In front of the cameras, yet not. He's been some orcs in Lord of the Rings films. He was Azog in the Hobbit movies. So you have definitely seen him in things, but you don't always know you have seen him in things. And
he's a navigator.
it was really, really cool to see him as a lead. But something I've been joking about is, like, if you're from New Zealand and you're an actor, do you need to, like, make a pact with Satan to lose your accent? Because I can't think of anyone from New Zealand that actually can manage having any different accent.
Most people from
And
New
don't come
Zealand
at me about
play
Carl
the-
Urban, because he's miserable with his
Simon,
accent.
Simon Baker. He's the guy. He was the medalist. If you've seen The Devil Wears Prada.
So someone else. So does Manu have to, like, kill him to speak without an accent?
Yeah,
like, is that how that works?
It's sort of
There's
like
just
a Highlander
there's
thing.
one.
You cut off his head,
Yeah, I think.
and then you gain that
Because
ability.
Carl Urban's a little better, but if anybody's watching it, go back and watch the first Star Trek movie. And
I think most people from New Zealand play people from New Zealand in American movies.
Well, unless they play Xena.
That's a weird Kiwi, don't worry, and then they throw it away like that, and that's what they are.
Well, Zoe
Yeah.
Bell, I think, is the last
Right.
But just an aside, I just found it funny. Like, the accent was very like, yes, American Frankenstein, in glorious America,
Right.
Americans.
Well, we've thrown out a couple of names, but since you both are intimately familiar, you want to give our audience just a rundown of what is Death Race.
Well, I think it was originally a satire. You know what I mean? It was. It's basically these professional wrestling personalities, and the population is gotten so large that as a crossover entertainment and population control, they throw this game where these people are in these cars and they kill pedestrians to gain points. And basically there's like 99% unemployment rate.
It's meant to be like a distraction from the fact that life itself is kind of obsolete because, robots have replaced humans.
Robots have replaced human beings to do everything. It's this dystopian world, so it's like this entertainment and population control game.
Everything is kind of like, drink soda. Soda's great. Now with 83% less mind control.
It's
like
very much living in comfort and squalor. I could see this as being set in the same universe as Idiocracy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the world of Idiocracy from a different angle, and I really enjoyed in this new movie. It had Malcolm McDowell as the president, which is a gift unto itself. It's almost like the original movie Death Race watched The Hunger Games and was like, "Yeah, I like that. Let's put that in the movie."
Malcolm McDowell's fantastic. And if you don't know him, obviously A Clockwork Orange, Time After Time,
and also let us not forget the new Fantasy Island.
No, I think what you really want to call out is Franklin.
Let us never forget.
Let us, yes.
Franklin and Bash. That right there is a classic.
Malcolm McDowell, star of New Fantasy Island.
Franklin and Bash. You threw a Franklin and Bash. That's a first for sure.
But yeah, Death Race was really interesting in the sense that I had really low expectations. I'm not gonna lie, I went into this being like, all right, I'll watch this crap. It's coming out on Netflix the day it's released. You know what? It was enjoyable. I thought it was pretty good satire for the times, and it had a lot of little things for, how do I put this, the woke nerd, if you will. For the discerning nerd. One of my favorite scenes in this is not a spoiler in any way, is the certain characters, two female characters, speak in a bar, talking to each other about kind of the state of things. And Pat, what was the name of that bar for our listeners?
That was the Bechtel bar.
For those unaware,
the Bechdel test.
And it was for those unaware of the Bechdel test. It's two named female characters speaking to each other about something that isn't a man, which was originally seen in the comic Dykes to Watch Out For, which was actually meant to show that like lesbian content is so rare that you can't even find two women that are named characters talking to each other. But it's kind of become this like lowest standard for a film, that that the least that a film has are two women that have names talking to each other about something other than a man. And I thought it was just a really cheeky nod to the audience in a positive way, in a like, we know this is crap.
But it's definitely in the know type to get that too. I don't think that actually the audience for it
well, that's what I think is so great.
Right.
Who is the audience to this movie? That's what I loved so much. It's kind of, at the same time, there's two levels of this movie. There's the level of, you're watching this movie and, oh man, this girl's banging a car. Literally, one of the characters is banging her car.
Yes, indeed.
She's banging her car. And isn't that crazy?
One big vibrator.
Her car's a vibrator, and it's crazy. And oh my god, that guy got cut in half. There's guts everywhere. And I love this movie.
Sex with
but
cars.
then there's
Hold on,
the level.
I gotta pause the orgasm and see what's going on. I got something caught under my
But then there's the second level of not so much getting it, because I don't want to think down on the people that are just watching like, yeah, it blew up. But there is this secondary level of watching it as a movie and watching it as the media that it is, and saying, this is a satire, and this is showing you there's a great scene in it where the president is just talking about how rich he is, and I forget what animal they're eating, black rhino. They're sitting and eating a black rhino.
Because it's endangered.
I mean, it's just so over the top, ham-fisted, shoveling it in your face, like capitalism bad. And I loved that. I thought that
I had a problem with some of that.
I think it really worked,
and it got into the realm of shoddy writing.
For me, I thought it was like a farce. I thought it was like farcical.
They had several different turns where it could have seemed to be as a really intelligent farce. Most of the scenes where you are seeing the audience member react to things happening directly in the death race. One of the interesting mechanics they incorporated in this was all the audience that are watching. In the old 70s one, people watched in live at live shows at the live stadiums and stands and stuff beside the road, or on TV. In this one, everyone has these little virtual reality glasses that puts them right in the passenger seat. Several times in the movie, it would cut to not the navigator on the side of the driver, but the audience member who's seeing themselves in there, and you can watch them react. And I'm like, wow, they're going to do something really poignant and intelligent here. This guy's reaction is going to really make a statement. And no, not at all. Several times I felt they dropped the ball there, and I was really waiting for it. I'm like, wow, this movie's going to be more introspective than I ever realized from the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could have been so much more.
I see what you're saying, but I'll be honest with you. I feel like it works because it's not really like this self-referential movie. Like, I feel like it works for what it is, which again, and this is not meant to diminish it in any way. It was a not released to theaters, home video distribution.
How dare you diminish this movie in that way?
I know, it's so rude of me, but I felt a good example of what you're trying to say, though, is like one of the newer characters, and again, this is not a spoiler, it's like one of the first things you see is there's a character, Jed Perfectus. And he's supposed to be like this, sexually ambiguous ubermensch, and
he's a cock diesel, ultra Aryan.
That was something I actually was bummed about real quick. I was really hoping that there'd be the Nazi car in this movie, just so I could see it get blown up, and there was no Nazi car in this movie.
An updated version. They, instead of the Nazi, in the original movie,
there's no update to Nazis. Nazis are still there. We still need to punch Nazis.
The ultra right wing fundamentalist driver who basically had her own religion and her own followers.
Breitbart employee.
Yeah. But I think that was the modern allegory for
But
the
I don't
direct
think
Nazi.
we don't need a modern allegory for Nazis. It can just still be Nazis,
Well,
and you can still blow them up.
Nazis are still here,
I think about a year ago when they were filming this, that it just started to get back into fashion.
Oh, they've never left.
Let's hear both sides, though.
I think
oh gosh.
I think the hardcore fundamentalists would be seen as more in that role up until recently.
I can see it, but at the same time, on a personal note, I would have, this movie gets an 8 out of 10, losing a star for me for not having any Nazis explode.
Wow. True, most of my movies do that too, though.
They explode Nazis?
I need exploding Nazis to get the full star rating.
It's just the icing on any
to
film's
get the full
cake.
star rating.
All right, this one, the main thing that got me though was, and I want to call out the was it 2008, 2010? The Jason Statham, Tyrese Gibson, Death Race,
which does have nothing to do with
it. No, I won't say nothing.
They have the same character names. There's Frankenstein's in that.
Yeah, it's true.
Loosely based on the original Death Race 2020.
It's like the alternate reality.
Yeah, they
version.
set a dystopian future. And this one tried to be a little more serious.
We'll get the prisoners, and they'll gotta fight each other in the cars.
I really liked it though because
I did like it as well.
In itself, they did practical effects. The acting was good. The story was fun.
They had Al Swearingen in that movie too.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most overqualified guy ever.
It was actually a great. In retrospect, it's actually a really great cast. A really fun movie to watch. And even though we acknowledge it's not the most prestigious movie, it was one that actually respected the material, despite how goofy the material itself actually is.
Right.
And this one,
what was that? Like Jason Statham ended up in prison. They framed him for killing his wife. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then he actually gets revenge on the guy that actually did it mid-race. Something like that. He breaks his neck. Yeah. It was a little goofy, but it was
goofy.
Fun. It was a fun movie.
Not every movie has to be.
It's a Jason Statham
Jackie.
movie. Like, come on,
it was.
I get it. Yeah,
I called that one out because it was far more coherent than this movie.
Yeah, this movie was a little bit of a mess. I'll be honest. I did enjoy it, but it certain storylines, and again, I don't want to give any spoilers, but there's a couple of storylines that don't really properly get resolved in this
picked up and
movie.
Abandoned for sure.
And there's a couple of things where characters do things that really have no motivations. Like the film establishes that one of the characters is faking their persona.
Yeah.
And then this character immediately throws that away.
Another one, could have been really intelligent.
Just immediately immediately goes right back to by the way, this is a persona and I'm super smart. Oh, let me immediately go try and kill this other character. It just did not make any sense.
Trying to hit their deadline and forgot about tying up a bunch of loose ends. Here you go. Yeah.
This was, you know what? It's Death Race. I would happily
keep it simple.
Have gotten
keep it simple. Yeah.
Seriously. And they tried to present something that they didn't follow through on.
Right.
And that in itself,
with a name as blunt as Death Race, you would think, they would probably just, be a straight ahead action, dumb, you know what I mean, blow stuff up.
Speaking real quick about the action and gore, I did want to give a shout out to how impractical its effects were, and that I genuinely enjoyed the goofy over the top violence.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that it could have gone too realistic and moved into this almost B movie, B gore zone,
kinda.
And I feel like this had a really good level of crappy CGI. There's no other way to put it, but it was good. It was I wanted it. It's yes, cut that man in half. All his organs are splurting blood everywhere.
Yeah, because that's what you came for. You know what I mean?
Borderline Aqua Teen Hunger Force explosions.
Yeah, exactly. It's
shoot 'em up.
Danzig comes out, more blood. Do you have the house with the blood?
Can you make the blood flow up the walls? Sure, why not?
Yeah, hey, they could do it. They would do it. I got a sense that they were trying to, when they revamped some of the characters, do a wacky racist thing. I'm that's absolutely not the way you want to go. That's very wrong. But I still didn't hate the writers. The acting kind of bugged me at times because I'm I know these aren't complete A-listers, but at the very least, there's got to be some way to make this dialogue work because it's Death Race and I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And they lost me at some point. Their motivations seemed to fall and then pick up sometime down the line. Didn't you completely abandon this 20 minutes ago? Obviously, and now you're trying to go back to it. The ending itself left me flat.
I don't think they really had any actors too that I was particularly taken with. You know what I mean?
I really wanted to see the Jed Perfectus storyline actually wrap up.
Yeah, it just kind of, that's another one. Okay, Jed Perfectus is supposed to be again this Ubermensch. He's been genetically created to be perfect, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
It's a movie that had an A story and a B story, and kind of a C story, which you normally see on TV shows, and they wrap up tightly. This didn't wrap any of them up tightly. The overall story, which is Frankenstein, the main story, Frankenstein story, did have a finish, but it was kind of a we know this isn't, we know you're not taking it seriously, so we're not taking it seriously type of finish. If I hadn't seen this done better, I'd be perfectly fine. But we've seen Idiocracy do it better. We've seen the earlier Death Race movie do it better. We've seen the original Death Race do it better, even though I don't want to harken on that. Oh, the original was much better than that. That makes me an asshole. I'm not going to do that. This one, it's a fun time. It's a dumb fun time, but it's a dumb fun time that presents itself as a little bit more than that.
If you so take it hints at it, then doesn't really follow through.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like Taboo. You're getting a lot of that. You know?
The whole wiener.
Like Taboo
wiener. With the whole wiener. You don't see Jen Perfectus once.
Yeah, you don't see his wiener, but he is in a real small bikini at one point, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, that was awkward. Made me feel funny.
Yeah, right.
I'm a little bummed that we didn't get more from certain characters because, dang it, what was the rapper's name? Do you recall?
I am blanking on her name.
All right,
it began with an M, right?
Minerva.
Minerva.
Her name was Minerva.
Yeah, these were really interesting characters. There's an AI that has an existential crisis.
Abe.
Yeah, Abe.
That's the one for those who were paying attention. The one that his creator is having car sex with.
Yes.
They make the Midwest really racist too.
So some of it was factual. This is true, but but
it's enjoyable. It's enjoyable.
There's a lot there that I would have loved to have seen if they'd fleshed out, or at the very least, given a little bit more screen time so they could wrap up some of this without having to go through the whole story. Just give them logical endings, and they did just kind of like. I mean, I think this was selling the name as a quick cash grab. We're like, we got Roger Corman. He's not going to be around much longer. Let's do this movie and get the hell out of it.
I think to be honest, like if I had to have like one wrap up conclusion, it's if you already have a Netflix account and you're already paying for Netflix. Watch this movie.
And you're about to fall asleep.
And it's you got 2 hours and you want to watch something goofy, you could do a lot worse than this movie.
Do you want to watch How I Met Your Mother again? No.
Exactly.
High praise on any account. Death Race, I would recommend it if you're familiar with Death Race.
Especially if you enjoyed the David Carradine version. Check this one out.
Yes, although we just have to let you know it's not. It's I guess it is a spoiler.
They know
how well you know the story. There's no grenade. And we came
how
to
dare you spoil this movie from the 7th? I'm angry.
Have a right to know there is no grenade hand. All right, so that was Death Race 2050. I think we're split on